our live events at 5:30 on Thursday. So yeah, we're here, and it's been a busy week. Even though I haven't worked on a lot of customer stuff, there's been a lot going on in the shop. We'll go over some of that here in a few, but I do want to wish you guys a happy 4th of July tomorrow, in case you have to dip out early. But also, if you're planning on coming to Garage Night tomorrow night, which is the first Friday of the month, we changed the hours. Usually it's 5 to 8 p.m., but with it being a holiday, I moved it up to noon to 4. That way you guys can come in, hang out, and then still be home early enough to go do stuff with your family, like cookouts, dinner, and fireworks. So that has changed just for this month, and we will not be doing one in August because I'll be at Bonneville. So Garage Night tomorrow night, or tomorrow from 4 to, Garage Night tomorrow from noon to 4. So that's going on. Yeah, not a lot's changed really in the office. I have been working in the office part of the office, like where I do all my shipping and receiving and computer work. With the new furnace that I got put in a few weeks ago, had to patch the concrete holes in the wall where the old exhaust and stuff went through. So I've been doing that, putting up some drywall, getting that stuff mudded in. So not really shop stuff, but stuff that needs done around the shop.
Jack of all trades. Dennis is here.
Welcome, Dennis. Thanks for joining us again.
And SJR1 Productions is here and says happy 4th.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Happy 4th. So yeah, we can head out to the shop. Nothing's really changed on the red car. I don't think it's going to make it to Bonneville. It needs a lot. We could take it and run it how we ran it last year, except we need to put a new rope in, front and rear main seal. It does leak a little bit of oil, and I'd like to do head gaskets and adjust the valves. So sounds relatively easy, but we are 3 weeks away from loading everything up and heading to Bonneville, and I'm focused on the MGA, so I'm not going to have time to kind of mess with the car. So not sure if the modified Roadster is going to make it to Bonneville this year or not. I guess we will just have to see. So if you guys are new to the live events, make sure that you're going to ask questions. The more questions that that get brought up, we can talk about those. It makes the live events better. So it's not just me rambling about nonsense. So if you got questions, make sure to ask them, and we'll cover them to the best of my ability. So with it being...
we've got Al from Ontario, Canada, saying hi, and he loves the live stream.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, especially from Canada. With it being right at the beginning of the month, I went ahead and wrote out this month's calendar. It's going to be short because, like I said, we got a few weeks to get ready for Bonneville. So next weekend, I'm going to be back on the Mustang on the Table project. I'm going to start fitting the convertible top mechanism, make sure all of that stuff works with the widened wheel wells I put in, make sure we don't have any interference problems with that. If I do, I'm going to have to modify probably the wheel wells to make the top work, and then I will continue on finishing up the rear wheel wells and trunk sheet metal. So that is hopefully going to be next week. I do have some frame rails and stuff I need to add into the mix. I got a whole bunch of roof inserts that I have to get done before I go to Bonneville too. So we've got this one I have to box up and ship out, and then I have another 33, 34 5-window roof insert to do. I have a 35, 36 5-window roof insert. I think 2 Model A coupe roof inserts I have to do. But luckily, those just have to get done before I go to Bonneville. And then the week after next, I will be back on the 51 convertible, working on getting these quarter panel sections dialed in, finished up, trimmed, fit, and hopefully welded up and ready to go on the car. So that's 2 weeks from now. I'll be working on that. And then I have custom exhaust tips I have to make for a local shop, and just try to finish up anything else I've got going on for the month. So if there's any frame rails I have to get bent, restocking any tools and equipment, that kind of stuff, I'm going to try to leave this week open to prep for that, because I do leave the Monday of the 28th to head to Bonneville. So 3 weeks we'll be heading west to go racing on the Salt. So got my schedule for most of the month all written out. Hopefully I can stick to that, but lots of stuff happens, and yeah.
Why don't you show us what you're going to work on the Mustang?
Yeah. So the convertible top's actually laying back on a skid. So where I widened the wheel wells 3 inches for the wider wheels, that brought everything in. Here, I can open the door.
Yeah, so I can see it. Can I see it?
Yep, you can see it.
I might be too short.
Yeah, so this moved in a few inches, and I had to trim all of this out to get those to fit. So I need to bolt the top in and make sure all of that clears when the top goes up and down, cycle everything, and make sure that works. So that's top priority, is make sure the top mechanism still works and fits as it should. And then after that, I can come back in where I started working on our trunk floor, our quarter trunk drop area, getting the deck lid to fit, getting the tail lights to mount, all of that stuff. So my normal, I tend to be all over the place, but on this car, I'm focusing on the back, and I'm gonna work my way from the back, working forward, doing trunk floor, regular floor, get the deck lid, all of that stuff, and I can just progress forward. So hopefully by the time I get to the front of the car.
So you have to make the floor?
Yes.
Totally?
Yeah, with doing the 2x4 rectangular chassis, a stock floor won't work since they were a stamped unibody to begin with. So I'm gonna have to, instead of buying a floor and cutting it apart and segmenting it, it'll just be easier to make a floor from scratch.
The same with the deck lid?
The deck lid, we bought just an aftermarket deck lid, but he wants some modifications to it. So I'm gonna have to separate the inner and outer skin, do the modifications to both, and then put it back together.
Okay, so
Yeah,
still
and-
a lot of work.
Yeah,
but
still
probably
a lot
not
of work.
Quite as much.
Yeah, it's not just hanging a
Yeah.
deck lid on there. It's got a couple little trick things to stand out. So,
Alan says he loves the work you're doing on the Mustang.
thank you. It's a lot, and I think a lot of people won't notice it when it's done, but that's the kind of stuff I like. Little subtle differences that something's different, but you can't quite put your finger
Like
on
Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Dale Davies says, where do you get the frame rail bend specifications? And he said, how about an Austin A40?
Usually, there's a bunch of different ways you can get the frame rail bending dimensions. You can do, like, if you have the capabilities to do the AutoCAD work, you can draw them in AutoCAD and send those over, or you can send me a sketch and I can draw it in AutoCAD and send that back over. A lot of times what I do is I will find a factory repair manual or a picture of a factory repair manual drawing from the side that has a few basic dimensions on it, and I can trace the top of that in AutoCAD. So to get technical, I'll take that image, I'll import it as a raster image, I'll trace the top profile of that, and then I'll scale it out diagonally to get the overall length and pick points right, and then I will offset that to the center line and do all the finalizing with bend radii and that kind of stuff based off of the center line. So a lot of times I can find a repair manual or a factory diagram that has the dimensions on it. Some stuff's a little trickier, but that's usually what I try to do, and then I'll send that print to the end user so they can verify that it'll work for their application.
Cool. And then I had a question.
Yep.
So those tail lights, can you just use stock tail lights in that? Or do you
Yes and no. So the problem is these are 69 tail lights that this whole center section's out of a 69. And I sectioned it down to go in the 68. I did not cut the tail light buckets. Those are factory openings.
Should I stay over here? Are you bringing a tail light?
So the lights will fit.
Okay.
So these are just 69 lights. The lights fit.
Okay.
But the problem is that the mounting brackets are so much bigger because the 69 is a bigger car overall. I have that somewhere. So this is the 69 mount that I took out, and you can just see how much bigger that is. So I'm gonna have to find a way to incorporate this with that to hold everything together, and I have to order the actual bucket itself and build around from that. So this is gonna be a little tricky to make all of this work, but I think I can do it. Because like I said,
when you were doing it, were you fitting the lights the whole time to make sure?
Well, I never changed
that, right?
Yeah, I never.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sectioned right through here. But if you look, if I line these holes up, so that's where the bumper mount holes go. you can see how much higher that is.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to lower this down, reshape this to accommodate that. So it's going to do a little have to tricky work, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, Dale says, thank you, Mike. Have fun at Bonneville. And then Dennis said he knows you can do it.
Yeah. Well, at least somebody has faith in me, because
Yeah.
sometimes I doubt myself. But, I mean, it's only sheet metal, and if I have to modify the trunk pan to go around the taillight, we can do that.
True. Yeah.
I mean, we're making stuff out of nothing, so there are no rules.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it looks nice, it's easy to work on, that's the biggest thing. So with me not getting a bunch of shop project stuff done this week, like on the big cars, the biggest thing I've been doing this week, being gone for a couple weeks racing, is I had a bunch of orders on our web store to get out. So lots of shrinking discs, radius gauges, slappers, corking and coining tools. I mean, I probably sent out 50 packages that I was behind on getting out due to being gone. So I got all of that stuff shipped out, and then I had to stamp another 50 shrinking discs, make sure that we're restocking all of our tools. So we had another 40 radius gauges come in, so I had to unbox those from the engraver, clean them up, and get them inventoried on the store. So I've been doing a lot of that stuff, and still unpacking the trailer, still unpacking the truck, and just playing catch up. Frame rails, I had some welding jobs and some small production stuff come through. So I really wasn't on normal customer project stuff. It's just all the stuff piled up while I was gone.
Yeah. And then people were sending you links to all those different machines.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
talk about that.
Yeah. In last week's live, somebody had mentioned a power hammer that was coming up for sale for cheap. And what day did that, was it Sunday he sent that to me? Probably. I think Sunday he called and told me where it was. So I looked it up, and like the auction was getting ready to end, and I wasn't really in the market to buy it. So I think it ended up going for $3,500 for a Pettingill number 2. So that was a really good deal. Yeah, really good deal on that. So yeah, the shop's still a little bit of a disaster. I had it all clean once. Everything was cleaned and put away, and then everything gets in the way. So I had some steel get dropped off for upcoming tools. I had plate get dropped off, and I've been burning that for some production jobs on the CNC table. Yeah, and we won't go in the back just because we don't want to lose you guys. But the MG is still on the lift. I was gonna try to get it off and somewhere where you guys could see it, but it still doesn't have front suspension on it. So we ran into some problems with moving the lower control arms forward to get us more caster. We had to make some adapter plates to do that, and then we had to get new coilovers and all new hardware, and just things escalated. So luckily I got all the hardware today. The coilovers came in yesterday, and I just got to finish up machining the adapter plates to do that. Jamie helped me bolt the rear lead in today, so I've been waiting on the hardware for that. And
someone to hold the
wrench. Somebody had to hold the wrench while I was on the top to tighten the nut. But yeah, so we're making good progress on the MG, getting stuff crossed off the line. Hopefully I'm going to make a big dent in it this weekend. I'm hoping to get the front suspension done, front weight done, belly pans back on, rescale everything. I've got some friends coming in to help me put the sequential shifter in, finish up some wiring. I feel very fortunate that I've got some good friends that really can come in and help me finish up some of these tasks, because we have a huge laundry list of stuff that needs to get done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
if you guys have any questions, though, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will read them, hopefully.
Yeah, because I mean, that's pretty much all I've got. Like, I still have, so these are strips of UHMW, 4" by 1/2". I cut these down into blocks.
Yeah, can you show?
For when you get a corking tool, it comes with 2 of these blocks of UHMW, so you can cut them into little pieces to make the tools for your corking tool. So that's the last one I have already pre-cut. So I got to go back to the radial arm saw, chop this up into 2" by 4" by 1/2" chunks.
Do you have one of yours laying out with a piece in it?
Maybe.
I thought you did. I thought I passed it.
Yep. Yeah, like you can carve. So there's the corking tool. This is corking tool number 1. That one's just like a chisel. That one's to kind of pinch over some sheet metal in a hard to get area and get down into a spot. So just cut them up into little chunks to make different profiles and do different jobs. There's a real little one to get into a spot. I was using it to hammer form down into a pocket. So really handy tool. Yeah, and we have a whole bunch of slappers that I did this week. So our standard sheet metal slappers, got them in from the laser shop. So it's just 4140. They come in, I deburr everything, and then sand the profile, and then I tumble it, stamp our logo in it, and then right before they ship, I come back through and give it a fresh polish. So all of these are prepped, ready to roll. So those took a little while. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got going on, just a bunch of everything like always. So yeah, just ask questions, because if not, you're just going to hear me ramble about the same things I did over the week.
I know. Yeah, I don't have any questions quite yet. Do you
Yeah,
want to talk about some of your equipment, maybe?
Well,
change the subject?
I mean, we can. I mean, I don't want to just ramble on about that. Yeah, it's just a really good time for you guys to ask questions you've been wanting to know, or see a piece of machinery you've been wanting to ask questions about, any of that stuff, because it's more of your event than my event. I just answer your questions or ramble on about nothing. So the more you guys ask, the better the event gets.
Yeah. Yeah, you just work here, right?
Yeah, I just work here. Yeah. We can show them the e-bike if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I'm really not an EV kind of guy, but when we were out in California, we figured it would be good to have a motor transportation on the lake bed and stuff that I can take to Bonneville. So we bought a Super 73 electric bike, and man, this thing's fun. Jamie rides it, and yeah, it rips at about 20 miles an hour. So it's really nice, because then we don't have to pedal to get around. We can use the pedal assist or the electric trigger, and yeah, it makes getting around much easier, especially out in the heat when we have miles to go to get somewhere.
So you got a question and a comment. Someone, Grand Camper Van, wants to know how you stamp the shrinking discs. And then PJB says you're too good at asking or answering questions in the comments of your videos. So that's why you don't get a ton.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can talk about stamping the shrinking disc. Let me grab one. So this is our 9-inch Hot Shot shrinking disc. And years back, I had hired a machinist to make the tooling to stamp the shrinking disc for me. So I provided them with a disc that I had and said I want to be able to repeatedly make these. So they were hired to do that. So this is our main stamp here. So just a male and female die, and we put a blank in I have it lasered out. So have the ID cut, the OD cut, and it lines up on our center pin, put it in the 50-ton press, and
squish it.
Yep, squish it, stamp it out, and then it goes into a secondary die set, and it puts the dimple in there for the nut.
PJB said, can you explain why they are better than the common version you see others use? And then similar SJR1 Production says, do you have a video showing how to use a shrinking disc?
I don't have a super in-depth video of how to use a shrinking disc. That's going to be something I'm going to work on. There are videos here on the YouTube feed of me using them and talking about them a little bit. So that's something I need to work on when we get back into producing specific videos. But we will talk about how they work and how to use one. The best thing, like I've used the smooth ones and the serrated style, and the reason I like the serrated style is it doesn't gull the metal, and it almost burnishes as it works. I've heard all kinds of stuff about it. It puts less of a load on the grinder, but I think it builds up enough heat, but not so much heat that it chews the material up. That's why I like the serrated style. I had used the serrated style for many years before I started making my own, and they were getting really hard to get. So that's why I had my own tooling made to produce my own discs. It's one of those things like, why does it work better? It just does. Like I said, I've used the smooth ones, I've used the serrated. I get better results faster and a better surface finish with the smooth. There's probably some reason why. I'm just not smart enough to know why. Science. But yeah, I mean, there's been a couple people that say like the serrations hit the material and agitate the atoms, which I don't really buy into. But I just think they work better. I've always had better results. And I think I've said this in multiple live events. I'm not going to try to sell something or produce a tool to sell if it's not something I stand behind on my own work in the shop. So I only sell the serrated type because I feel that they work better and you get better results. That's why I don't sell the smooth type.
SJR1 Productions also said the other half of his was a statement that he has a Torino roof that has been jumped on, and he'd like to see if that would work on the creases.
Yep, that would work really well. So the big thing is it's not going to be the end-all be-all savior. What happens is when people have jumped on the roof, it has stretched the material down, so you're going to have to press that back up, hammer and dolly as many of the creases and major dents out that you can. And what's going to happen is that it's going to want to oil can because the material's been stretched. So then you can run over it with a shrinking disc, and it'll work the highs and lows and tighten all of that back up. I use the shrinking disc a lot on roof repairs. I've done some trucks, I've done some bigger body cars, and they also work really well when you get panels back from the sandblaster where they've overworked it and stretched the panel in from the sandblasting. It's not the heat that causes the distortion, it's the millions of little stretches where the sand contacts the material. So the shrinking disc is key on pulling that back out and getting the panel tight. So I do a lot of door skin repairs, hood skin repairs, and deck lid skin repairs from media blasting. But they're also really good, like you said, for fixing dents and dings and overworked areas on roofs.
Andrew Baker wants to know if the GT40 is an FE motor.
Nope, the GT40 has it's a Dart short block, which a 302 Dart, and then it's punched out to a 363 stroker. It's just a Ford Racing 363 crate engine. I think an FE would be really cool, but the cost of the motor and the power it puts out versus a 363, it's just kind of comparable. I can just wring its neck a lot better and not feel so bad if I scatter it across the road. So yeah, no FE in it.
Yeah, a couple people said thanks. Alex Foley says the best grinder for using a disc and how fast.
So I use a Makita 9-inch grinder. I think it's a 9-inch. I don't know what the actual size they call, but it's just the big Makita.
You look like a guy holding a fish.
Yeah. So just the big Makita and wide open. You're not going to press down on it. You're going to let the disc do its job, keep it nice and flat, just like running a buffer. You're not going to put a ton of pressure on it. Just let the disc do the work. You could use like a buffer with variable speed, but like I said, on this, I run it wide open.
Okay. Dale Davies also says, what size grinder? He has a 1940 Ford four-door that has stone dimples in the rear fenders that'll require a bit of shrinking.
Yep. Yeah, so if you go in and hammer and dolly those lows up and get it as close as you can, run over it with a shrinking disc, let it heat up. You want it to be hot enough to where you can't touch it. Like you don't want it to turn colors or anything like that. Just to where you can't lay your hand on it and let it cool down on its own and then repeat that process. It's actually a really slow, tedious process. A lot of people want that instant gratification. It didn't fix this in 10 minutes, but it's just not a 10-minute process. It's a lot of heat cycling and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. I don't like to quench when I'm using the shrinking disc. I like it to cool down on its own. The best way I like to describe that is the atoms are moving around. If you hit it with water or air, you're essentially telling it red light and they freeze where they're at. You're just locking them into place. But if you let them cool down on their own, they can kind of wind down and they can find a happy spot where they want to be. And I've just found that you build a lot of weird tensions in the panel and it starts to get brittle if you're heating it up and then quenching it and heating and quenching. But if you let it cool down on its own, things just tend to move where they want to go and it happens a lot faster.
Does it freeze frame like you just did?
Yeah.
Okay. PJB said he needs a demo, and does it have to be high to shrink?
Well, I mean, it does. The shrinking disc is going to make contact with the high. So the high spot is going to get the disc is going to make contact with it, and that's where the friction and the heat is going to come into play. But also, if there's a low next to your high, it's going to shrink that back out, because as the high spot expands and then contracts, it's going to pull that low spot up
with it. Okay. Yeah. Dennis wants to know, do you use a marker or lube?
Nope, no lubricant. Every once in a while, like if I'm doing an aluminum panel, I'll put just a little tiny bit of wax on it. If you put a lubricant, or some people are using Sharpies or Dychems, that is a lubricant on the panel, you're not going to build that heat. The lubricant is going to keep it from creating friction. The friction is what keeps the heat. The only reason I do it on aluminum is the steel disc on an aluminum body, it can gall. So I like to put just a little bit of lubricant so it doesn't chew the panel up, but you still need enough friction to create the heat.
I think that was good.
Yeah. Like I said, I can ramble on forever. So that's why the questions are good, so it's not me just talking about weird stuff.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in shrinking discs, they are on the website, cornfieldcustomsltd.store. You can pick those up. We got a lot of good stuff back in stock. Like I said, #1 radius gauge, the black one's back in stock. The #2s are back in stock. Slappers are back in stock. I think I've got a set of mini slappers coming in from the laser shop maybe on Monday. So those will be back in stock. The machinist is working on coining tool inserts and coining bodies. So those are coming back in, and we're working on all kinds of new tools that we haven't had before. So we'll be getting those in stock hopefully here soon.
Okay, PJB asked, Model A trunk lid, just sand off the rust and paint and then start shrinking?
I would get it down to bare metal. You don't want any paint on it, just bare metal only. So get all the rust off of it, whether that be chemically dip, sandblast, DA, whatever you can do to get all of that rust off, because it's going to act as a lubricant, kinda. It's just going to limit the friction because you're going to be going over rust. So again, you don't want paint on it or anything, just bare metal only.
Yeah, he said thank you.
Cool. Yeah, what other questions you guys got?
What are you looking at?
Talking too much. I need a drink of water.
Parched. I'm surprised no one asked about the little boat in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Alan Henry says, which do you prefer to work on, sheet metal or aluminum panels?
So this is a big thing. So technically, aluminum is sheet metal. So steel versus aluminum. Personally, I prefer aluminum. I don't know why. A lot of people around this area think it's the devil's metal and it's not usable. So I like to make as much out of aluminum as I can. And that's why when I built the modified Roadster, I did the nose, the hood, the sides, tonneau cover, all of that stuff out of aluminum. So I've just always liked working in aluminum better.
SJR Productions wants to know, where did you get your sweeps?
I cut myself. Didn't realize I'm bleeding. So my sweeps, Chris Rush from RMD and Viper made these for me, I think in 2016.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are your other two? Were they out there
Yeah,
somewhere?
they're out and about from where I was making the 36 roof buck. Yeah. Yep, so Chris made all of these for me. He had them lasered out. If you're interested in getting some lasered, I think Mike Phillips has the design for the sweep set, and you can email him, which I don't have his email, but it's Phillips Automotive in Pennsylvania. I don't know if he charges anything for the design or if he just gives it away. But then you could send them out and have them lasered out of 1/8" aluminum. It's a really handy tool for doing like roof inserts, door skins, panel alignment, all of that stuff. Yeah, we don't come around in here a whole lot.
I know, that's why I thought it'd be nice to show the equipment sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got lots and lots of stuff. Yeah, like that's a hood for a 427 Cobra, just a hood skin, and then a 1932 Miller Burden pleasure car door. There was only one Miller Burden ever built, and I did the main body on it, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And that door skin got damaged, so I made another door skin for it. Lots of bucks and test pieces and samples, all kinds of stuff. Aircraft parts. Like this is an engine cowl section off of a B-17 Flying Fortress.
Oh, hold on. I missed it.
Oh, you missed it? Yeah.
Oh.
So one of the engine cowl pieces off a B-17 Flying Fortress.
What's the one to the left?
That was the original nose. Yeah, this one was the original nose design on the Rouster Roadster, Indy Roadster.
Okay.
And I kind of didn't like it, so I redesigned it.
PJB wants to know, what was your first car build?
The first car build as a business, I did a 41 Chevrolet pickup truck. Kind of a rat rod, even though I don't like that word anymore. But just real simple, straight axle, 302, tunnel ram, nothing crazy. That was kind of the start. And then I hadn't built a car for myself from then. What one was that?
Well, the cool part is that one's still on the road.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Did he sell it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I sold that car in 2008.
Your car?
2009, yeah, the truck.
Yeah.
So somewhere around 2008, 2009, I sold that truck, and I hadn't built myself another car until we did the Red Roadster in 2021.
Yeah, that kind of answers PJP's, his question. First car build and then personal. Andrew Baker said, where do you get your inspiration from?
A lot of my inspiration draws from Land Speed, just the styling, the history, and the overall look. I don't know why I'm so drawn to that, but I just always have been. You know, like the super chop, everything's sleeked out, and it looks like it's going fast sitting still. So I pull a lot of inspiration from Land Speed stuff, and it kind of works out because I'm super deep into Land Speed racing now.
Dennis wants to know, how's the car that was built in Florida a few months ago?
The one at Fuller's in Georgia.
Maybe, yeah.
I haven't talked to Brian. I think it's just in his storage building while he's hoping to find a client to continue on with the progress. I haven't talked to him a whole lot, so I'm not sure how all that's going. Yeah, the body panels were built by like 3D metal shaped, CNC metal shaped by Tom out of Florida. So that could be where that is coming from too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Tom Speed did that on a figure CNC metal shaping unit.
I do think we should talk about your little platforms, only because I just jumped off of one.
Yep. So Jamie wants to talk about the platforms, and the big thing is when you're running a machine like a power hammer, you want to be able to see through the tooling and what you're doing. But the problem is at eye level, I would have to be standing like this, which I can't do. So I build little platforms so I can stand on it, and I can hold it at a comfortable level, and I can still bend down a little bit to look through it. But then if I need the extra room for a panel, I can move that out of the way. So it's the same thing. Like this machine is, I can't really adjust the height. It is what it is. But when we come to the Linux, I raised the Linux way up and then built a platform. But when I'm doing like a quarter panel, I need this extra room underneath. I can't have it 6 inches lower. So I like to make platforms that I can just lift out of the way when I need that room.
Yeah.
And it's better to stand on wood than concrete.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt the back quite as much.
Exactly.
SJR1 Production says loves the shrinking stump. So
thanks. Yep, this is one of Carl's.
Fancy.
Yep, this is one of Carl's shrinking stump kits.
That one is?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I've had this one a long time. I pulled this piece of ash out of the ditch down the street, and it's got a really deep dish in it. I don't do a ton of stump shrinking anymore, but I like to have it here when I do demonstrations for our metal shaping classes.
Yeah.
And we do have openings. I think we have one opening in September, and then is the other one in November? November or December, I think we have a few spots open. So if you're interested in coming to a metal shaping class, check that out. And then...
Yeah, put your hand in there again so you can see how deep it is.
Yeah. Yeah, there's...
Can't quite tell on the camera as much. But Sourdough Speed and Trim says they missed the podcast. Ever thought about posting the audio of the live chats to the podcast?
I mean, we could try that. The problem is I think I've even talked about it on here and in the podcast. I am the king of having too many irons in the fire.
Oh, for sure.
So then I just start a new fire, and then I continue to put irons in those fires. So the podcast is kind of withered away because it's so labor intensive, and we don't get a lot back. It costs so much money a month to put out, plus the time going into it, and trying to get the logistics of everybody on the phone and do all of that. I wish I could just do YouTube videos and the podcast and a few other things like that. But unfortunately, I have to focus on what pays the bills as well as keeping up with the racing program. So the podcast just kind of fell off to the low man on the totem pole for now. Hopefully we'll get back to it because a lot of you guys really do seem to enjoy it. It's fun when we do it. It's just a lot of work and time goes into it. So it just kind of fell off.
I think, and I don't know if other people think this, but for me, like I like listening to podcasts because then I can close my phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can't do that with YouTube, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, because I do have on YouTube most of the podcasts are on YouTube.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, and like we had that audio put up and they didn't do well, and I don't know.
YouTube has this algorithm thing.
Yeah, that we can't seem to figure out.
Yeah.
But on a good note with podcast stuff, I got contacted the other day. What's the name of the podcast?
I don't remember.
It's got Danica Patrick hosts it, and I'm going to be on there, I think on the 9th.
Did you schedule it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to record the podcast on July 9th at 4 p.m. I don't know if it's live or if it comes out. They said something about live streaming, so
cool.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, we'll let you know when it's a little bit more.
Yeah, because the 9th is Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we should know more for next week's live to tell you when it comes out, where you can watch it, all of that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool that I'll be on a podcast with Danica Patrick.
Gavin Wallace wants to know, for a DIY shop working with 1 to 2 inch tubing, wanting to learn how to do metal shaping, would you recommend learning TIG over MIG for that scenario, as well as assuming cost of either is not a concern?
Yes. So the good thing about living in the times that we do, there's not a huge price difference between MIG welders and TIG welders anymore. There's a lot of economy type TIG welders, like Eastwood has, an Eastwood 200 TIG that's pretty decent. Everlast has good units. And then even, Miller and Lincoln, some of their older units are still really good. You don't have to jump right in and get a giant inverter. All the TIG welders I still use are non-inverter machines, and they're very reasonably priced to get used. So like I still use synchro waves, but if you're going to be learning sheet metal work, chassis work, tube work, all of that stuff, learning TIG is going to be where it's at. I'm really against MIG welding sheet metal. It's going to cause you so much more hassle, and it's going to be slower. You're going to have to grind the welds, then hammer dolling the welds. They tend to crack, where a TIG weld or an oxy-fuel weld do not. So it irritates a lot of people, but I always say MIG welding's for tractors and trailers. If you're doing anything automotive related, learn to TIG, focus on that, build your TIG welding skills up, and it'll help you in the grand scheme of things.
Dennis wants to know how the Australia trip plans are coming.
They're coming along. I think we're booking flights tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe tonight if I can get my life together.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, we've got all of our dates set with Motor Retro, and
I think they still have a couple openings if anybody's on.
Yeah.
I would
think
get
that's
a hold of them.
Yeah, that's towards the end of October that they have
Yes.
openings. So
Maybe the first weekend in November, I think they might have. Like,
Yeah.
that's literally the 1st and 2nd, if I'm remembering right.
yeah. So reach out to Motor Retro there in Sydney
Yeah,
if you want to
Vaughn.
attend. But yeah, we got our lodging pretty much lined out. We've got everything we need to figure out. We
Yeah,
just got to
I think
book
so.
everything.
Yeah. And Dennis wants to know if you're planning on stopping into Bennett Custom?
I don't think I'm going to have time because he's over by Perth, I believe, north or south of Perth, which
Yeah.
is kind of across the Australian continent.
Continent.
So mainly we're going to be in Sydney because how it's working now, I think I have Monday, Tuesday to myself.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's a class, and then a different class Saturday, Sunday. And then
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday to myself, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday class, and then Saturday, Sunday class. So there's not going to be a whole lot of time for me to jump out and go all the way across the country.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of stay somewhat local to the Sydney area.
Tommy Dunlop said a couple of things. First, he said 3-phase.
Nope, I don't have 3-phase here. It was going to be really expensive to bring 3-phase into the building, plus rewire the building. So I just run everything off of converters, whether it be a static, rotary, or even a VFD.
And then he said some of them old transformer TIGs have a removable spake plug.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
not an electrician.
Yeah.
I just plug it in and use it.
Yeah, Dennis, I am planning on going, I think, so this, not really a wrench, but at first I was planning on going going with Mike and then flying home separately, but now I think I'm going to fly out separately and come home with Mike because he gets like a week off, kind of. Like,
yeah, I think I get 4 days off towards the
in a
end of the
row.
trip versus
Yeah,
2.
versus 2. So I'm going to try to definitely be there for that, so that way we can run around a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. So if you also have ideas on what else, I know, now I can't even think what it's called. The Opera House,
Yeah.
right? Obviously want to see that, but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. If you guys have other ideas or things that like.
Yeah, a couple people have told me to drive up the coast and look at the cliffs and
Yeah.
just, apparently there's I forget what the highway is, but if we drive up that highway, it's supposed to be really pretty, and we'll do that. And then on our way home from Australia, Jamie's gonna come home, and then I have to fly into Vegas and recuperate for a few days in Vegas, because then I'm teaching a class with Bailey Industrial at Kevin Stone's there in Vegas. So then it'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday class in Vegas before I even get to come home from Australia. So
Do they have spots open for that still?
I believe so. I think
Shane's got it
I think they've got spots for September too. So Bailey is doing another 2 metal shaping fests this year. One in September at their location in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and then the other one is there in Vegas the weekend after SEMA. So it's going to be October and November are going to be very hectic.
Super busy.
Yeah. So yeah, and it sounds like October, November, it's really far away. But we leave for Bonneville in 3 weeks, and then almost the whole month of August I'll be gone at Bonneville, and then I'll come home, and it'll be September, and we have classes here, classes in Wisconsin, getting all of that stuff, and then we head to Australia.
Yeah. Tommy said your work is good. Is so good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I try real hard.
I know.
Yeah, so you guys have any other questions? Yeah, I really wish we could go in the back. We need to figure that out, because that's where all the cool stuff is. You know, the GT's there, the Hanchard Special, the Streamliner, and the MGA.
Maybe we'll have to figure. I don't know if we can do like test runs. Like, I wish we could do like a test live and like.
Yeah.
I don't know. We might fiddle with that. So. If
Yeah, we might
see
have
us-
to go back there and like run like a Wi-Fi strength test back there.
Maybe.
Try to figure
yeah.
that out, because we do have a Wi-Fi booster, but apparently it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
I kind of have an idea now. I'm thinking about it, but we'll fiddle with it. So if you see us pop on it, it's not Thursday. Forgive us.
yeah, yeah, because maybe if I move because the Wi-Fi amplifier, so our Wi-Fi is up in the office, and then our booster
I thought it was in the middle here.
is here in the middle. Maybe if I move it farther back, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll try that. Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, make sure to get those in because we're going to start wrapping things up. I'm getting pretty hungry, and I have to take the boss lady out for dinner for recording the lives. So
Yeah, that's my payment is dinner.
Yep, so make sure as we wrap things up, if you have any last-minute questions, get those things in so we can get them answered. If not, you'll have to wait till next week.
Or if they become a subscriber on Instagram.
Yeah, if you want to become a subscriber on Instagram, it helps support the Instagram channel. And we do a Sunday Q&A. So it's usually not videos, it's just me typing out replies. So we do that. If I could figure out how to do that kind of stuff on Patreon, I would. But again, there's more irons and more fires we have to kind of figure out. So maybe in the future we can move on to that, but for now we have that on Instagram, and it's what, $1 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
PJB said thanks for hosting. Dennis said booster or your booster. I don't know if he means Wi-Fi maybe.
Yeah, like it's an aftermarket Wi-Fi booster that we bought, and maybe it's just not good. I don't know.
Yeah. Dale also says at Bonneville, did you ever meet a team from Calgary, Alberta, Canada? They ran a roadster with BBC with the number 1149.
Maybe. I'm really bad with names, and Bonneville just gets kind of hectic. So with me working in tech as a tech inspector, I'm sure that I've probably talked to them or maybe looked over their car. It depends on when it was, but everything blurs together, and I can't remember who I've met at Bonneville for the most part.
Axel Foley says try another booster, maybe.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Dunlop wanted to know how you started in fabricating.
I started fabricating kind of just as a kid. I was always building stuff, and I took my freshman and junior year of high school, I took auto shop every quarter, or it wasn't auto shop.
No.
It was metal shop every quarter. So I took it 2 years, and then I went to vocational school to learn aluminum TIG welding and machining to get better at that stuff. So I've always been making stuff, and then I wanted to build a hot rod for myself, and that's kind of what I did, and people liked it, and a guy told me I should just quit my job and build cars full time, and that was when I was 20 years old.
Young and impressionable.
Yeah. I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but I tend to jump into things with both feet, and so far it's worked out pretty good, and it's just been a long journey. So yeah, because I think I had the shop part-time when I was 19.
Yeah.
So I hadn't gone full-time till I was 20. So yeah, we've been in business 20 years.
Almost, yeah.
Well, full-time 19 years, but including the part-time, it's been 20 years. Yeah. So that's pretty wild.
SJR1 Productions says thanks for the info, and they'll definitely order the disc.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, thanks for watching and checking that out. So yeah, if you're interested in any of the tools, radius gauges, corking tools, billet file holders, all of that stuff, we're trying to keep it in stock, and you can check all of that out at cornfieldcustomsltd.store, and make sure to sign up for our newsletter. When you go there, it'll be a little pop-up, and that just came out yesterday?
2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. And one cool thing with that is we do a reader's ride. So if you want to submit a brief bio and some pictures of a project you're working on, we can throw that up in the reader's ride, and you can get a spot there. It's just a good way monthly for new tools coming out, where we're going to be, events, that kind of stuff, and you can keep up with the shop in writing if you like that kind of stuff. Still trying to figure out how to get you guys back the back catalog of those. It's not very clear on how to do that, so I'm still working on it.
Dennis says thanks and have a happy and safe 4th.
Yep, thanks you too, Dennis. And again, speaking of the 4th, tomorrow is the July garage night. So if you guys had been planning on coming, we just moved the time up. So it's going to be from noon to 4 instead of 5 to 8. That way you guys can go enjoy some fireworks, barbecue with your family, all of that stuff. But yeah, so tomorrow, July 4th, noon to 4 is our July garage night. And we won't be having one in August because we'll be at Bonneville.
Yeah. Cool.
So any other last minute questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
Last call.
Yeah, last call.
Okay.
But thank you guys so much for checking out this live event. If you can, hit some of our back catalog on videos. Just check those out. There's lots of tube bending videos, how to, metal shaping, different projects in the shop. Lots of stuff in our back catalog. I think we have a few hundred videos for you guys to check out if you haven't seen those. For everybody that's new, this is your first time on one of our Live and Dirties at 5:30. Thanks for tuning into that. I still don't know if Jamie likes that, likes the title, but I think it's funny.
Yeah, Todd said he learned a little bit about shrinking discs, and Tommy said, enjoy everyone, and Dale Davies said early 2000s.
I didn't start going to Bonneville until 2011, and I haven't been doing tech.
Okay, sorry, I thought I messed up.
Oh,
we're good.
Yeah, I hadn't started doing tech till 2016. So if it was in the early 2000s, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got introduced to Bonneville later in life.
Yeah, cause, well, I wouldn't say later in life, but we were married with the first time you went.
Yeah, 2011, because
right?
we went together.
Yeah, yeah. So. Okay.
Yeah, so cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no other questions? All right. All right, so if you come up with a question, save it for next week, and we will see you here live at 5:30 on Thursdays. So thanks again for checking it out, and we will see you then. Have a good week.